But to get it a little more practical and grounded and rooted and not some esoteric ancient Chinese stuff, like I mentioned earlier, we have to realize that health means something different for each one of us. And really the first step to getting closer to what we want to achieve is to figuring out what that means. So a lot of us say, I just want to lose weight. I just want to be healthier. I just want to have more energy. There's a huge difference between saying, I want to lose weight and saying, I want to lose 30 pounds by the end of this year. Those are two totally different things. It's a huge difference between saying, I want to get healthier I'm saying I want to be healthier versus I want to not get so tired at 3 p.m. every day, or I want to wake up and actually have more energy. It's a huge difference between saying I want to make more money versus I want to make $50,000 this month or by the end of the year. Those are two totally different things. And the way our mind works, when we get more focused on exactly what it is, that's what our mind will focus in on. And a lot of sort of new agey people call it the law of attraction or meditation, all that stuff, but in reality, it has a real basis in biology in our brain called the reticular activating system, meaning for whatever reason, whatever we focus on, our brain will just give us more of. And that's a whole other thing that goes into obviously psychology and biology and evolution, but it has a real tangible basis in reality. And health for one person could mean if I could just get up and walk and just take a short walk every day, that's going to make me healthier. But for another person who's already running 20 miles a week, in their head they're thinking, if I could just get 25 a week, then I'd be healthy. Which really leads me to another point, is that oftentimes, because of the culture that we were raised in, we really get caught up in sort of the external representations for things. And a lot of times people think they're healthy because they do a certain thing. People say, I'm a vegan or I'm a vegetarian or I only eat organic and I'm healthy. And kind of what that does is that just tells your brain to go back to sleep. Because you're telling it, I've already achieved what I want to achieve, I'm done. And it says, okay, you're done, fine. We won't keep working and giving you what you need to do. Or people say, I do yoga 8 days a week, I'm healthy. Or people say, I run X amount a week, or I go to the gym 20 times a week and I'm healthy. And this is something that is really common in, I've definitely been through it. And anyone who really gets into the health field goes through this and experiences this sort of trap. But really, this is a trap because it's confusing the sort of external representation for the actual internal thing which the representation is referring to. And just to illustrate that without getting too deep, our culture, we sort of confuse the map with the territory, or we eat the menu instead of the meal. And there's a Zen or a Buddhist story which illustrates this super simply. And it's basically saying that words or external symbolic representations are like a finger pointing at the moon. And the moon is the actual thing. So when we say the word moon, we should all look up and say, oh, there's the moon. But sort of the way we've been trained in our culture, we say, oh, the moon, wow. And we're just looking at the finger or the word and getting confused and realizing it's two totally different things. Likewise, my throat is a little bit dry, I'm a little thirsty from talking, and you all could just yell water at me all day, but it's not going to quench my thirst. The only thing that will is the actual water which is in this thing, which is not the actual word. So for that reason, that's why I brought up all these different images and self-images we get caught up in, that we sort of delude ourselves in thinking we're accomplishing what we're trying to accomplish. So as I mentioned, it's important to define things clearly so we can save our precious time and energy and our resources. Secondary to that, most people fail to achieve what they're wanting to achieve is because they don't actually define it clearly. As we just had those examples earlier of, the difference between losing weight and losing 30 pounds by a certain date or 15 pounds or whatever it might be. So then, as I mentioned earlier, I was going to give you some actual, criteria and definitions and real crystal clear things to be able to use to say, oh, wow, this is what health is, this is what health means to me, and this is what I can use and apply in my own life. So a really nice definition of health that I've put together is that we can see health as having a state of wellness in which our mind is clear, our emotions are balanced, and our body is free from illness or injury, and we experience a strong sense of vitality and a strong ability to just get through our day without feeling totally beat down. Now obviously this isn't a commandment. I'm not saying you must accept this as the only definition of health and make it some ideal. No, this is just something to add some clarity and add some empowerment to all of this barrage of information that we're given, every day, whether it's from the news, from the newspaper, from our doctors, from friends and family, from people like me, from the internet, whatever. And you notice in that definition, I didn't say anything about having six-pack abs. I didn't say anything about being able to bench press 1,000 pounds or being able to run 30 miles or having a BMI of 7.9%. No, because like I said, in our culture, we confuse the external thing with what the internal the internal thing actually is. So if we see someone coming out of the gym and they're jacked and they're ripped, they're walking out, we think, this dude's healthy, look at him, he's so healthy, he goes to the gym 5 days a week, his body fat is 3%, he does this, he does that. Or we see, oh, she does yoga, she can put her leg behind her head and balance on her hands, she's so healthy, wow. But in reality, a person can appear very fit and ripped on the outside, but still have a whole host of problems which actually diminish and undermine their overall quality of life. Things like, a bad back or damaged joints or, organ imbalances or an inability to really breathe deeply and fully in a relaxed and comfortable manner or, emotional problems, depression, anxiety, anger, all of these things. An inability to handle stress or even a lack of libido or other sexual imbalances. And like I said, there's so many images of this in our culture as far as the bodybuilder or the runner or even the yoga master. And for someone who grew up playing sports and being incredibly fit my whole life, I can tell you that from running cross country, just the short while that I did, I knew a handful of people who just dropped dead. Everyone thought they were super healthy and they ate well, but if they went out on their run, maybe in their early 40s, never came back, and someone found them or whatever. And it's just it really pointed out to me that, wow, I thought this person was so healthy and invincible, and they did all of these things which are supposed to grant them this great thing, but it didn't really work. And then getting in high school and starting to lift weights and bodybuild, and realize, I feel worse, I feel horrible, what's going on? So how we can flip that and sort of make it a little more positive and useful for us, we can see that some criteria for health and some things that will actually give us health and longevity would be having a strong back, having strong and fluid joints, having good circulation of all of our bodily fluids, our blood, our synovial fluid, our cerebrospinal fluid, our lymphatic fluid, our hormones, all of these things. If they're moving and flowing properly, we're going to have good health. Balanced internal organ function, an ability to actually breathe deeply and fully. That's definitely going to be a characteristic for achieving great health and longevity. And to be able to engage in all of life's activities with comfort and stamina. Now, obviously, they're just criteria that I'm giving. And criteria and ideas and concepts are awesome. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We all have a past, we all have a history, we all have genetics, we all have hereditary things, we all have emotional things, families, jobs, we have all of these things. So we can have criteria and definitions, but we shouldn't think, oh, I don't have that. Oh, I'm so horrible. Because, life happens. So it's just good to have these things in mind and say, you know what? I'm going to keep moving forward and keep moving toward these things. Because it's going to manifest differently for each one of us because we all have different goals, different reasons for being here, different lifestyles, different histories, different genetics. All these things play a role. So to try to say that health is this thing over here and we all must achieve this, it's just really silly. It's just like saying all women should be a size 1 and have a body fat of 2%. It just is it's absurd. Or saying that all guys should have this massive physique. It's just something that someone made up, and then we sort of think, oh, I don't have that. In reality, we don't need it in the first place. So now just to recap, we actually have some tangible and real criteria and a better idea for what health is and some different criteria to actually measure and quantify that. So to take it a little bit deeper, let's look at, what is the real backbone of health and longevity? What is the highest leverage place, the highest leverage thing we can focus on to get the greatest return on our investment? Because like I said, we can spend all of the money we could ever make on diets and cleanses and fasts and detoxes and herbal supplements and organic food and body work and all these things, but in reality, what's the highest leverage thing? What's the thing we can put the least amount of time into and get the most reward out of? And I don't know if you guys are like me, but generally that's what I want. I just want to do the littlest amount of input and get the most amount of output. And if there's anyone here who really isn't into that, then sorry. I mean, there's, hard work is cool, but why does health have to be hard? Why does health have to be a chore? Why can't it be fun and enjoyable? Why can't it be something that you look forward to? People think of diets or eating healthy or being healthier, and they think, oh God, I gotta go do that. Why does it have to be that way? Why can't it be fun and enjoyable? Because in reality, if you're beating yourself up to do something, what does that have to do with health? If you're feeling horrible inside, how does that exist with health? I mean, it just doesn't correlate to me. So again, what's the real, the real backbone for health and longevity? It's obviously, not a rigid dietary box or a supplement or a cleanse or a detox or a fast, or really something that you can just go out and buy. You can't give someone $1,000 and they'll give it to you and just, a magic pill. It's something that which takes time and energy and focus and discipline, and something which really just should be integrated into our lives. And really, we should have gotten it as soon as we were born. Should have came out of the womb, and as soon as we were able to understand symbols and language, that someone should have said, here, take this. This is going to add years to your life, and it's really going to save you a lot of trouble in the long run. So without more, build up, what is the real backbone for health and longevity? Does anyone have any guesses? What?
Be happy.
It's a little more. That's part of it, definitely. But the real backbone for health and longevity is literally the backbone, or the spine. I don't know if that's as funny to me as it is. I don't know. I thought it was pretty funny when I came up with it. Because when people think about health, they think it's this far off esoteric thing, when in reality it can be practical, and because we all have a spine, we all have these organs. So that's very relatable to all of us because we're all humans. Rather than saying, you should be happy, or you should love everyone, or you should meditate 20 minutes every day. What does that mean? You should go home and cultivate your chi. It's like, what? What are you talking about? I mean, that stuff has value and it has meaning, but there's other ways to translate it and put it in terms which we can actually digest. Because if you take a baby and you try to give it a steak, what's going to happen? You can't eat it. It's too much. So you have to give it little pieces which we can actually digest, and then we're ready for more, and then we're ready for more. So why the spine is the real backbone for health and longevity is because literally our digestive system, our circulatory system, our lymphatic system, our nervous system, our endocrine system is all running right here along the spine. And if I had a projector, I would have had these awesome slides to show anatomy, but I think I can do it because we all have a body. So if you think about it, your spine's here, right? And if you look at our digestive system, stomach and our spleen is here, our pancreas and our liver is here. And then we have our small intestine, our large intestine, right? And what's happening to these organs right now? They're just basically sitting there. But let's say our posture is really bad and we just sit like this all day. What's happened to those organs? They're being compressed and smashed. They're not being stimulated, they're not moving. So what's going to happen to their functioning? It's going to be undermined. Same thing with the circulatory system, the lymphatic system, the endocrine system, and even the nervous system. It's all running right here. We have our thymus gland here. We have all of our lymphatic ducts which run up our spine and are contingent upon our spine. So really, if we can learn to move our spine regularly, and I'm not saying move your spine, go out and do a back bend and roll back and put your hands on the ground and bring your feet to your hands. I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just saying we have to learn to move our spine. And why is that important? Because we stimulate movement and flow and transformation in all of these systems. So by doing one thing, we can affect all of these other things, which when we ask ourselves, what makes us healthy? If I had 30-inch biceps, does that make me any healthier? No, because biceps don't digest nutrients, they don't assimilate nutrients, they don't transport nutrients, they don't do any of those things. Well, what does? Obviously our organs. So that's where we really need to focus and take care of. And this is the most high leverage thing that we can get the most return on our investment of time, energy, and our resources. And an important point that I sort of just touched on, but I really want to clarify, is that to understand health, to understand longevity, and really life in general, this is a natural principle which can apply on the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual level. We can say that where there's movement and free flow, there's health. Where there's blockage, stagnation, or fixation, there's dis-ease. And if that sounds a little bit weird, next time you're walking in the woods, just find a creek and just like dam it up, put a rock in it or just build a dam. And obviously it's a little abstract, but if you come back, what's going to happen? One side of the dam is basically going to die and atrophy because it's robbed of the nourishment, while the other side is going to basically stagnate and start to really let mosquitoes and all kinds of other pathogenic things start to grow in it because it's not getting the flow and the transformation. Likewise, if I take my hand and if I were to put a tourniquet on it right now, eventually my hand is just going to atrophy and decay because of the blockage and the stagnation that's being caused. It's being robbed of nourishment. So the spine, as I illustrated earlier, has all these impacts on all these different systems. So if we look at all the different exercises that most people do, or how we go through our daily life, and look at, well, how does this move and stimulate movement in this area? So we sit down and pay attention to how much range of motion is my spine going through by doing that. Not too much. And then if I were to lay down, how much range of motion am I getting? Not too much. So if I want to exercise and I'm walking, how much range of motion is my spine going through? Not too much. If I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to bench press, I'm going to do sit-ups or whatever, minimal range of motion. But let's say I can learn some sort of system to where I can take my spine through, a full range of motion, and by doing that, stimulate all of these different things and all of these different fluids, because we are essentially water, and water likes movement, and when we move, we're basically massaging and stimulating, all of these different organs. So then the question is obviously, well, how do we do that? How do we actually take the spine through more ranges of motion and really impact all of these different areas? Before I answer that, I just want to sort of wrap up this point and illustrate one more important thing, is that we saw how it impacts all the different areas, all these different systems. But if we were to zoom out and say, well, what are the things that really hit people, in old age and really undermine their health? And does this have any correlation to the spine? Does this have any correlation to impediments in the flow of these different systems? A lot of times the answer would be yes. And that was just another major point. And if you're wondering, well, how does this contribute to longevity? Obviously, if we can stimulate free flow and movement in all these different areas, like I said, we're going to create health in these different areas and thus prevent things from occurring. So then the question is, how do we stimulate more flow, more free movement of energy and fluids in the spine and all these different systems? Obviously, through a practice of an intelligent movement system, which can then integrate proper structural alignments and proper structural integration. In other words, like I was saying earlier, what we should have been given as soon as we were able to understand it is this system to be able to learn how to use our bodies more intelligently and effectively. So what would be an intelligent movement movement system? Some sort of yoga practice, or Tai Chi, or Qigong, or Bagua, or Xingyi, or whatever of those things appeal to you and interest you, and whatever is accessible, most importantly. And I'm not saying that one is necessarily better than the other, because really what it boils down to with exercise is doing something that you like. Even if it's just simple calisthenics, even if it's just taking, a broomstick and stretching your spine and moving your spine through different ranges of motion. If you like doing that, you know how to do it, it's accessible, it's moving your spine, it's doing what you need to do, and it takes no time. You don't have to go to a yoga studio. So all of these things are great strategies and modalities. It's just a matter of finding one that you like and, again, practicing it at whatever level you can. And you don't have to, again, do these crazy back bends or put your leg over your head. It's not necessarily what it's about. It's just about stimulating movement in that area and movement in that spine. And like I said, it's going to be different for each of us. So why is this important? How can this actually grant us greater health and longevity in a real crystal clear and easy to understand way? Because remember, as we said earlier, where there's movement and free flow, there's health. Where there's blockage, stagnation, fixation, there's dis-ease. Whether that's this physical level or even in the mind, even on the mental or emotional level. Meaning we could have a really horrible experience or a really traumatic experience as a child or as a teenager, as a young adult. And what happens is that becomes frozen in our mind. And that's basically creates a huge blockage of energy, which we have to deal with until we actually process it and sort it out. So this principle applies really across the board. So then how is moving the spine really going to give us greater health, greater longevity, greater vitality? It's because it's going to allow what energy we already do have, what energy we already have in our body to circulate and move more freely. So we don't necessarily have to go drink coffee or have to go buy all these supplements and herbs and do all this crazy stuff. By moving the spine and moving through all these ranges of motion, we're going to get better output for what we already have. We're going to get better circulation and movement. From that, our bodily systems are going to eventually become more efficient in their functioning. Because through massaging and moving the liver, through spinal twists or whatever it is, it's going to get more efficient at what it does. So we're going to digest our food better, we're going to assimilate our nutrients better, we're going to eliminate toxins better, we're going to manufacture hormones better, all these things which the liver is responsible of doing. Thirdly, through improved circulation, through a greater energy utilization, we have this really powerful equation for real health and longevity. Because we initiate what's called a benevolent cycle of health. Meaning we have all these habits and all these wastes of energy, but now we're actually getting our body to do what it wants to do more effectively. So we're getting better circulation, and then the organs are getting better at what they're doing. So we're getting constantly higher and higher and higher and higher levels of health, which again is really the most common sense and crystal clear thing that we can understand to have longevity and to have better health. Because it doesn't have to be so esoteric and weird to think that, well, if I just buy this pill, or if I just do this fast, or if I just do this supplement, it's going to maybe give me what I want. In reality, this is just sort of really common sense and basic and crystal clear. That if we can, number one, get better utilization with what we already have, get better circulation, and then increase our efficiency and our ability to generate this energy, then we're obviously going to have a surplus of energy over the long term, which is going to grant us greater health and longevity and vitality. And why that is because if our body is constantly using its energy to put out all these different fires, it really only has a small amount left over to give us that boost we need, or to give us that extra energy we need to not get so tired. But we start to stimulate the circulation, stimulate the efficiency, all those little fires start to go out, and we start to have more energy available over the long term, which then just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing, because again, we're getting more fluid, we're getting more flexible, we're getting more movement, and our organs are getting more efficient, thus it just grows. Does that make sense? And this is, something that's really easy to understand, but you could go pay like $5,000 and go to the longevity conference, and they're not going to tell you that. They're going to have 30 people that says, do this diet, do that diet, buy this supplement, buy that supplement, don't do this, don't eat that. And at the end of the day, you have all this information, but you don't really have something like common sense and easy. Oh, well, I can do this simple exercise every day. Yeah, I can stimulate movement. Or, oh, I can see I'm stagnant over here. Let me get some movement going here. It's pretty simple and common sense and easy to apply. So, just to recap, we've learned some actual tangible and real criteria we can use to really understand health and measure health and quantify what it actually is and what it's actually about. So we're not so fooled into thinking that we have to fit someone else's image of what we should or shouldn't be, or for what they say is healthy, when in reality we understand now that someone could look amazing on the outside, but on the inside really not be that healthy. And I'm not in any way putting down being fit or working out or going to the gym or running or lifting weights. All those things are important because fitness is just as important as health. But what happens is people oftentimes sacrifice one over the other. And just go to the gym. That's all I really have to say. Just go to a yoga class and see people struggling and thinking they have to beat themselves up to achieve health, when in reality, if we're doing this and we're stressing and tensing ourselves, how is that creating health? That's creating more blockage, stagnation, fixation, which, as we understand, is not health. It's the opposite of health. It's dis-ease or a lack of ease. So we've also seen that if we get more clear about defining what we want to achieve, we can achieve it a lot faster. And I can corroborate that from my own personal experience, from not in my own life, from manifesting things just quicker and faster than I even thought was possible, but also just working with people. And really, it takes a little bit of time, it takes a little bit of energy, because at first we start off with this big, vague notion of something that we want, but we have to get it down and get it down to something that's extremely specific. Because we might think in our head, it's going to be so hard, it's going to take all this work, it's going to take all this time, I'm going to have to do all this stuff. But that's not necessarily true. It can be really quick and really easy. So we also saw how the real backbone of health and longevity is literally the backbone. And we understood how if we can start to move that through its full range of motion and start to integrate, proper posture, proper ways of moving throughout our day, that we're going to stimulate flow in all of those vital organ systems, our circulatory system, our lymphatic system, endocrine system, digestive system, etc. And also by tonifying and keeping the spine healthy, we keep all of these fluids moving, keep all of that stuff in circulation. Because we can eat the best food in the world, we can spend $1,000 on the best supplements in the world, but if we put it in our body and we don't have good circulation, we don't have good digestion, assimilation, and we don't have the circulation for those nutrients to get to the distal parts of our body, how worth it is it? It's really not. I mean, sure, you get a little benefit, but how about work on this other thing and get far more out of what you're already doing? And then really the most important concept that I think we can all take away and walk away with is the definition that I gave, which that says, where there's movement and free flow, there's health. Where there's blockage, stagnation, fixation, there's dis-ease. And that's something that can pay dividends over the long term, and it can apply to the mental level, the emotional, the spiritual level, the physical level, and on and on and on. Because it's just a natural principle, which we can go out in nature and just walk through the woods and say, oh yeah, there it is, it's true, I can see. So it applies the same for us. So that's everything I had in my outline. I'm not sure how we're doing on time or if anyone has any questions, but I think that's probably good for now. I could go on for another 6 hours. Thank you. So hopefully, yeah, go ahead.
You were mentioning something about, biologically speaking, when you concentrate on something.
Yeah.
You didn't go into much detail, but what was the name that you gave that?
It's a reticular activation system, RAS. If you just Google that, you'll see the Wikipedia for it. It's just like a psychological mechanism where they found that if you focus on something, the brain gives you more of it. They think it's basically for evolutionary purpose, meaning you learn, oh, the tiger over there is dangerous, so now your brain is on the hunt always for tigers or for threats, which that can work against us, or it can work for us. We focus on things that we want, our brain will say, oh, there it is. We focus on the negative things we don't want, the brain will be like, oh, there it is. So, yeah.
So
You're welcome.
What movement do you suggest? I mean, I know you went side to side. Is it not good to go all the way down?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just wherever you're at.
Wherever you're at.
And it's not about like bending down and putting your head, on the ground. It's just about getting a little bit more than what you're doing now. And a really important principle for exercise and life in general is to really not go past 80% or 70% of your capability. Meaning if I'm like in a stance right here, but if I go all the way forward that I can, what just happened to my body? It got really weak and I'm about to fall over. But if I go back to like 70%, you probably can't push me over. So same thing if we're working out, we're going to the gym, or we're working at our job, or working with our family. Once we get past 70 to 80%, then our body all of a sudden has to use all this extra energy just to keep us afloat. When in reality, if we stay in this comfortable zone, we have that extra 20% of reserve, and we're not over stressing or overdoing it ourselves. So that's a good principle to keep in mind for any kind of movement. But like I said, yoga or qigong or tai chi or bagua, whatever is accessible to you, whether that's a DVD or a book or going to a class, or even just doing simple calisthenics, which I think like way back in 20s, 30s, and 40s, they had people like doing all this kind of stuff, all that kind of stuff. I mean, even that is good because it's actually moving your spine through its full range of motion. So even if it's just as simple as taking a broomstick and just doing that, I mean, whatever you can do. For me, I have a whole system I do and a teacher and all this whole other thing, but that's just what I do. I mean, it's just, like I said, what you like and what you'll actually do. Because you can read a book that says running, that's the most important thing, is how valuable is exercise if you don't do it. I could write a 300-page book about the greatest exercise ever made, but it's worthless if no one actually does it. So it's just,
I'd be just skinny if the books would help,
I mean, that's really what it's about is,
Yeah, if I book and that would do it, I'd be there.
and it's just about taking like one step. It's not about like, oh, I got to lose 30 pounds, because you don't lose 30 pounds by losing 30 pounds. You lose 30 pounds by losing 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. And literally, I've heard of people who have lost weight just literally by measuring decimal points took them like a year, but that's about all they did.
Right.
So I mean, it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be this big ordeal. It can be as simple as, you know what? Usually I just go home and sit on the couch, but maybe I'll go take a walk, okay? It just can be as simple as that. Or maybe, I don't eat any vegetables. Maybe I'll eat a salad. Or maybe I'll wake up in the morning and drink water. And that will, again, kickstart sort of a benevolent cycle. Because once you do one thing, you gain more confidence. You say, oh, now I can do the bigger thing. It's just kind of like feeding steak to a baby. And there's all these different health things and all these different things you're trying to achieve, but you have to do it one little piece at a time. And eventually you get stronger and you gain momentum. So.
One thing that you turned me on to a few years ago was the Tibetan rites.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. There's this.
That's helped me a lot.
You can do this on YouTube. Type in 5 Tibetan rites, and there's lots of classes and free, easy ways to do it, where people just give away and demonstrate it. And even you can just go on YouTube and type in yoga for the spine, and people will have free stuff that you can just do. I mean, it's becoming really, really accessible and really, really easy. It's just a matter of, again, finding something you like and finding something you'll do. And what will happen is you'll literally get addicted to it. Once your body realizes how good you feel, you will become hooked. And you'll beat yourself up because you feel worse than you did when you were doing it. And you say, I gotta go do that. And then again, you just use all of these things in your body to your advantage. Your body will make you know, you go do that. Okay, I'll go do it. Rather than saying, go to the refrigerator, get that ice cream and drink 8 sodas and eat that whole thing of ice cream. It's going to say, no, just have that salad and just have, a little bit of this and have a little bit of that, and, then go for a walk. You'll be fine. So, anyways, I could keep going all day. So, and if you want to learn more, I have a YouTube channel, like I said, with almost 400 videos, which actually I deleted a lot of them because I started a couple years ago and had really no idea about talking or anything, and I just deleted a lot of them because they just weren't good. So it's HyperionTV.com. So HyperIonTV.com. And there's just loads more of really good stuff for diet, for exercise, for nutrition, for herbs and supplements, for mental, emotional stuff. So a lot of good stuff, and it's all free and it's just there. So. You're welcome. Thanks for coming and thanks for listening. It was a trip, again, talking to real people. It was fun.